Good afternoon. Our distinguished guest speaker, the one that all of us have been waiting for, Mr. Mawuko Afadzinu, our chairperson for this occasion, Dr. Ernest Abraham, who also is the Dean for the Faculty of Management Studies. Invited guests, esteemed faculty, industry partners, students, and friends of the Department of Communication Studies. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you to yet another edition of our guest lecture series, hosted by the Faculty of IT and Communication Studies. From its inception, this lecture series has been guided by a clear and noble purpose, that is to provide a platform for the dissemination of knowledge and best practices from industry as part of strengthening academia-industry linkages in ways that contribute meaningfully to national development. Our commitment has always been to bridge theory and practice, preparing our students and community to engage effectively with the communication needs of our society. We fondly recall our maiden edition on Wednesday, 20th April 2022, when we hosted the revered Professor Kwame Kakari, former Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, who spoke on media freedom and constitutional rule in Africa. Constitutional rule in Africa. Lessons from the past and present. Insights for the future. That session set the tone for insightful, relevant, and impartial knowledge sharing, a tradition we fondly and proudly continue. Today marks the 6th lecture in this enriching series, and we are delighted to host a conversation on the very timely theme, strategic crisis communication in a disruptive era, the role of corporate Ghana in promoting national development. In a world increasingly defined by rapid technological shifts, misinformation, economic uncertainties, and social disruptions, crisis communication has emerged as a vital leadership function. This lecture will help us explore how corporate Ghana can respond to crisis strategically, protect reputations, build public trust, and support broader national stability and development. Understanding how institutions communicate in times of uncertainty is not just a corporate concern, it is a national imperative. Allow me to use this opportunity to also highlight our academic offerings that support this vision of excellence in communication training. In our offering, we have diploma programs, diploma in public relations management. Undergraduate programs, we have Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations Management, Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies. Our postgraduate programs, we have Master of Philosophy in Media and Digital Communication Management. We also have Master of Arts in Media and Digital Communication Management, and then MBA in Communication, in Corporate Communications. We also encourage you to look out for our upcoming program, the Bachelor of Arts in Professional French and Communication, which further reflects our commitment to developing globally competitive communication professionals. On behalf of the whole faculty, I would like to appreciate our guest speaker for honoring our invitation to serve as the main resource person for today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this program today. We look forward to an exciting and engaging section. Once again, you are well welcome. Thank you.
Prof, thank you so much for that warm welcome address. Let's now invite our former UTAC president, now Dr. Sadat, to introduce the chairperson for today's gathering.
Thank you very much, our international MC. I call him 21st century MC. Unfortunately, the name of the chair has been mentioned, and I should be the first person to mention the chair to you. Anyway, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and a unique opportunity for me to stand before you on this very important day to introduce the personality who is going to manage, control, and steer the affairs of this very important gathering. You agree with me, such an important occasion, there should be somebody who can control the affairs to the end, in fact, to the successful end. By looking around, all of you seated here, you all have qualities, individual qualities that will qualify you to occupy the chair. But there's one person who has combined all these qualities together that makes the person perfect fit as far as the chair of this program is concerned. The chair for today's program was a former HOD for business administration and a former deputy dean of faculty of management studies, and currently the acting dean of the same faculty, management studies. And this person had his PhD from Greenwich University from the United Kingdom. And he has published a lot in reputable journals across the world. He is a member of Institute of Directors Ghana and is a very humble person. Look at all these qualities that I've mentioned. Very humble, down to earth. Ladies and gentlemen, support me to welcome the chair, who is in the person of Dr. Ernest Mensah Abraham. I believe all of you, you're going to give him the support so that he will steer the affairs to the successful end. Audience, your chair, your audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sadat, for those kind words you said about me. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Prof. Dean, good afternoon. I want to stand on all the existing protocols that you have established to help us to redeem the time. It is a privilege and an honor to be called upon to chair this important guest lecture on the theme Strategic Crisis Communication in a Disruptive Era, the role of corporate Ghana in promoting national development. This theme could not have come at a better time like this. We are all very much aware of the times that we find ourselves in, times that things happen very fast and change very fast. From technological shifts, global pandemics, to uncertainties and reputational risks, issues about climate change today, food crisis, wars across the world. Such times Crises are not just possibilities. They are realities that demand preparedness, clarity, and strategic response. In a time when public confidence can be lost with a single post, tweet, or headline, transparency, empathy, and strategic engagement are more important than ever. Effective crisis communication is therefore not only a corporate survival skill, but a national development issue. That is where crisis communication becomes so vital. It is not simply about reacting to bad news. It is about foresight, trust, and leadership. How an organization communicates during moments of turbulence often determines whether it emerges stronger or suffers long-term reputational damage. As a nation, we need our corporate sector to communicate honestly, with accountability and purpose, to build trust with citizens, investors, and international partners. Since communication is more than just writing or speaking, it is about making an impact, exerting positive influence, connecting destinies, and creating fruitful relationships and collaborations. In doing so, we contribute not only to institutional resilience, but also to Ghana's collective reputation as a stable and trustworthy nation. Today's discussion is more than an academic exercise. It is a call to action. It challenges us to rethink how we prepare, respond, and recover when disruption comes knocking. May today's lecture inspire innovative ideas, strengthen collaboration between academia and industry, and remind us all that the way we communicate in times of crisis can either weaken or advance our national development agenda. I also commend the organizers for bringing this critical conversation to the fore, and our distinguished guest speaker for accepting to speak to us on this theme. I accept this responsibility to chair this discussion and humbly request that you all cooperate with me so that together we can have a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Now let's invite the patron of COMSA, Dr. Justice, to introduce the guest speaker to us officially. Dr. Justice, you are welcome.
All right, thank you very much, our MC. Dean Chair, with your kind permission, may I present an abridged version of the rich profile of our guest speaker. Thank you. Our speaker for this afternoon's lecture is the Executive Head, Brands and Marketing for Stanbic Bank Ghana. He is an award-winning strategic management brand, marketing and communication executive with a proven track record of transformational leadership and strategic impact. You can call him a strategist. He is currently serving as the chair of the International Table Tennis Federation Sustainability Committee and also the immediate past president of the Institute of Public Relations Ghana, IPRG. In 2014, he was recognized as the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana Marketing Practitioner of the Year. He is a high-performing professional with a deep understanding of the financial service landscape. He possesses exceptional leadership skills and a proven ability to drive business growth through innovative brand, marketing, and communication strategies. Our speaker has held the following positions: Public Affairs and Communications Manager, Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Ghana Limited. Head of Marketing, Ghana International Airlines. Chief Consultant, Brand Center. Senior Manager, Marketing Communication, Ghana Airways, Accra, Ghana. Sales and Marketing Executive, Ghana Oil Company Limited, Accra, Ghana, among others. Other experiences are an adjunct lecturer, African Institute of Journalism and Communication. Adjunct lecturer, Ghana Institute of Journalism, now UNIMAC. Consultants, Word Ventures. He holds an MBA from John Molson School of Business in Canada, my favorite country. He also holds a postgraduate diploma in Communication Studies from the University of Ghana, Legon. Apart from that, he has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Ghana, among other professional certificates. Doc Chair, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, please help me as I welcome to the podium our guest speaker in the person of Mr. Mawuko Afadzinu. Please, let's applaud him. You are most welcome. Thank you very much. Our guest speaker, you have the guests, our guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, standing on all established protocols, I'll first want to apologize for keeping you all here, especially Mr. Chair and all the professors and doctors and everybody. Indeed, when I was coming, in my office, we have a tradition that the one who is late for the meeting buys food for the entire meeting. Wait! And because I was expecting a much smaller group, my two-no self was going to say that immediately I come here and buy takeaway for everybody. Then I saw the crowd and I realized that there are promises and there are promises. It is possible. But we know where it is possible landed. But having said that, I commit that I'm going to make it up to everybody. I'll make it up to you. And I sincerely apologize. No matter the circumstances, it is not proper for such an august group of people to be waiting. You know, when I got the topic and I looked at the theme, I reminded myself that it's true, I'm coming to a very illustrious academic setting. Because, you know, back in the day, this is the kind of exam question that you look at, and in our day, we used to ask for paper. So you are either asking for more paper or you are removing your shirt. It's one of the two. Because it's a very interesting, two-sided theme that we are going to be talking about. On the first part, as our chair, Dr. Chair, did say, the first part speaks to the issue of crisis communication. And indeed, anybody in this room who wants a career in communication should know that as surely as day follows night, you would have crisis. It's just inevitable. And the nature of crisis is such that you can't predict its nature. Sometimes you see it coming, as we would be talking about, because Galamsey is a crisis that has been 20 years and 30 years in the making. It's been creeping on us gradually, and right now we have an existential crisis. The flip side, you have COVID, which caused everybody in this room to sleep in the house in the month of April 2000. It's 5 years. Some of you have forgotten. So soon. And the entire country, the whole of Africa, across the world, for that period, those 2 weeks in April, everybody was at home. That was a huge global crisis of very weird proportions. It was without peer. We had never ever experienced that. Then there are all the various things that happen in various spaces. So crises are part of life. Indeed, a very clever man once said that one of the worst things you can do is to allow a crisis to go waste without picking up valuable lessons, because it might not come again. Now, coming back to our topic. So the first part is the crisis part. And the second part is the role of corporate Ghana in promoting development. I dare say that given the challenges we have in Ghana, and indeed by extension in Africa, the role of corporate bodies and corporate Ghana specifically in promoting development has become far more important than it was some 40, 30 years ago. And even as I look into the crystal ball, what is clear is that that role is going to grow in very huge proportions into the future. Its impact is going to be exponential because the traditional sources of development are shrinking in their capacity and their ability to deliver what the youth of this country needs. And you are here in this room. 3 years, 2 years, a year, 4 years time, you are out and you need jobs. And you need to stay in an environment that gives you hope, that gives you belief, that gives you a sense of purpose. And the traditional agencies, sadly, not only in Ghana, but typically across Africa, have struggled to deliver on their mandate. Indeed, sometimes it leads us to be asking certain dangerous questions. But because of Dr. Che, I will not ask one of those questions now. Maybe when I'm leaving, I'll drop it as food for thought. So if you look at corporate Ghana, the role of modern business extends beyond making money. That must be clear. And that is part of our challenge, because we live in a country where businesses see the end as the value they generate on their balance sheet. No. It is part of the purpose, but your mandate as a business is much more than making money. Because part of it is you becoming an economic engine. You generating jobs. You creating the space for people to self-actualize. You ensuring there is enough money going around in our country, in our communities, in our regions, in our towns. So corporates have a responsibility to be the economic engine. The next one is the social contract, which we know about a lot because oftentimes it's reduced to CSR. But the social contract extends beyond CSR. And the case is made, indeed by some authorities, that the social contract mandate, Fredman, for example, he would say in his shareholder theory, writing under the UN Sustainability Development Goals, he argues that a company's success is dependent on its ability to manage its relationship with its stakeholders, not just shareholders. And the stakeholders would include employees, customers, suppliers, communities, and critically the environment. Now that means that beyond the standard philanthropy and CSR that we are used to, part of the responsibility of corporate Ghana is environmental stewardship. And when we talk about environmental stewardship, it means that we cannot sleep, we cannot rest We cannot ease up when galamsey is eating up our country. Beyond that, there is the issue of fair labor policies and practices, and of course, critically, is how we engage with the community. So I mentioned first the economic engine, then I spoke about the fact that there is a social contract. The next one is the institutional partner. So corporates have a responsibility to be an institutional partner, and that is a key national development mandate. And what does that mean? Now, again, the theory says development invariably is weakened by, is hindered by weak institutions. So you remember when Obama came into Ghana many years ago. Obama said something that was very poignant. He said, what Ghana needs, and those were the days of Jerry Rawlings, who was a very strong man. What Ghana needs is less of strong men and more strong institutions. Indeed, now more than ever, is that requirement even so evident? Because the challenges we have with fixing our environment, the challenges we have with taming galamsey, the challenges we have with issues such as the trust deficit, is primarily because our institutions can easily be compromised by strong men and women. And driving here, and sometimes I'm even guilty of it myself. When the pressure comes, you put on the hazard, they're going through the traffic. It is wrong. But you only get to do that because some way, somehow, you believe that the institutions will allow you to go free. Just by way of example, many, many years ago, a family, friends of ours, came from the US to visit, and we were doing a drive all the way to Akosombo. They had a 5-year-old son, and he really wanted to wee-wee. The father is my friend. We attended Prempeh College together, so we've learned all the wrong things together. On the way, I said, Jack, the boy is suffering. Let's park for him to wee. So we parked. Immediately he parked, the old man got out, my friend, and then he started doing it. You know, the small boy got there and the small boy couldn't pee. I said, why, Kwame? He said, no, I can't. It's not even coming. Because he's been oriented that you do not pee by the roadside. So the urine will not flow. And that orientation is because the consequences of doing the untoward in the society he came from are so dire, so you don't even think of it. I consistently say that it is not that the black man is potentially more inclined to crime than a lot of the other institutions, or a lot of the other people of other color. But it's because we think we can get away with it, and we do get away with it. So we need very solid institutions, and corporate Ghana has a role in that. And of course, the final one is innovation. Again, if you look at the drivers of innovation, because of the size of the balance sheet of corporate Ghana, the capacity to be able to devote and dedicate significant amounts to research and development is much more bigger than a lot of the other key estates can do today. MTN published their results. You should see their numbers. I was looking at the number and I was saying that, wow. What it means is very easily they could impact the swing of the economy in more ways than we can imagine. And that is just one institution. Not to mention where I come from, because they pay me, I didn't mention their name. But if you take it all together, corporate Ghana has become such a significant player that the key, they call it verticals, the key structures that hold the states together and that drive national development should be positively influenced as a matter of responsibility by corporate Ghana. don't want to see corporate Ghana as corporate citizens. We want to start calling them corporate patriots. Because they understand that their existence is linked to the success and the development of this country. We cannot operate a Stanbic Bank if the youth are in the street without jobs. So it is just enlightened self-interest that whatever we can do to upgrade and upscale and to provide opportunity and capacity, we do. It's not because we are being kind. It's because we are taking care of ourselves. And to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of the community. It goes without saying. So this is just the first part of it. As I said, the topic, my Tari. The first part speaks about what corporate Ghana has to do. And then the second part addresses the issue that we know too well. Crisis communication. And the expectation of corporate Ghana, especially in such perilous and changing times like this. As for the change, it's everywhere. Indeed, if you want to maintain your sanity and you are like the people sitting in front who saw a few years that those at the back, you don't want to look back. Because if you look back, you will not recognize what you are seeing. Let me give you a classic example. Many, many years ago, and coming here, I just smiled. Many, many years ago, I used to be a student leader at Lagos. And the NUC's Central Committee meetings during Aluta times were held on this campus. To come here, we have to walk. In those days, they were scary days, you see. But right now, you people, you only know democracy, you don't know Jack. They were very scary days. And we had issues with everything in this system. Of course, old age has taught us that we were very foolish. But at that time, we thought we were very clever. We had to walk from Legon here for meetings. And to get here, we go through the bush. Take bush. And we're doing this in the night. So today, driving here, and there was traffic, I was telling my colleague who was driving the car that those days I used to come here, they were playing ball on this road. Football on this road. Today there is traffic. The change has been seismic. And it's all over. Now I look back to some of the crises I dealt, and they mentioned Ghana Airways. I dealt with huge Ghana Airways. Many years ago, again, it's story time. We used to have an airline called Ghana Airways. It operated into 24 countries. 24. It was supposed to be our pride in the sky. It ended up, the restaurant is even collapsed. It ended up in another sad Ghanaian story. My sadness with Ghana Airways is not that it went down. It's the quality of the brain trust that superintendent, including myself, that superintendent is going down. That same brain trust, move them from Ghana, put them in another setting, and they will be running a world-class airline. Strong institutions, seismic change. How do we deal with this situation? And what's the responsibility of corporate Ghana? I dare say that the most important thing for me that's starting, and you know it better than I do, is the trust deficit. Ghana, nobody trusts anyone. If someone tells you they trust you, don't trust them. It's our biggest challenge. And you see, it's not because it's a rational position to take. Because we gave up our values. I mentioned earlier that in the corporate space, we look at the value we generate. But more important than the value are values. If you want value to stretch over a long period, it must be predicated. It must be built on values. As a country, we've struggled, and I have seen it in one of my theories. It's just a theory, it's a hypothesis. It hasn't been tested. Is that we are worse off on the back of our convoluted version of democracy. We are worse off. What I saw, and now we are worse off because we've bastardized. We've taken a very powerful concept and twisted it and wasted it and created a caricature that we call democracy. And it's one of the first things we compromise on that journey is what we stand for. Because if you hold to clear principles, we've created an ambience where you struggle to succeed. If you look at our local expressions for those who use the fast routes, if you work in a place like this or anywhere, and you keep to principles, your values are clear, you are straight, those around you will say you are slow. Not only are you slow, if I speak the language of my laws, they will say, now the person who is able to generate value, regardless of the source, will get all the recognition. And that person, a young man and young woman, will say, he's a very fast guy. He's a smart guy. He knows what's up. And naturally, there is a certain gravitation towards that, regardless of how the value was created, how the world came. Now, you juxtapose that to back in the day when you make money, and I know a friend who bought a new car, he had to hide the car for about a year. Because he got the money so fast, he couldn't send the car home. The parents were asking questions. He had been working for 3 years. Now is the flip side. It's the responsibility of corporate Ghana to bring back trust, to close the trust gap, to let people start believing that what they say is what they stand for. And I posit that of all the estates of the states, you know, there are the traditional 4 estates, and given the role of corporate Ghana, one can make an argument that we may even consider them to be the 5th estate. And of all the estates, the one with the space to be able to build this trust mountain or this trust pillar is corporate Ghana. And what does it mean? It's very simple. It means that our credibility needs to be up there and our expertise must consistently be demonstrated. What we say is what we do. And what we do is the best of our ability all the time. Indeed, going back to what Osajifo said, only the best is good enough for us. Now, the next thing I want to mention is the fact that we need a certain sense of cohesion. So, it is not the norm in this part of the world. And it's also because government is such an important player. So I'm coming here to speak. I'm sure if my chief executive is watching me, will say, this is Mawuko, maybe it's because of the hair. And Mr. Chair, you know, I nearly took off my hair because of you. Seriously. I was coming to UPS, and UPS is a very pristine place. So I said, should I go and get rid of this thing before I come and speak? Thankfully, my only lack was that when I called my Baba, he said, oh, today he's a little busy. Otherwise, because of you, I was going to get rid of this. Then I'll look the parts. You know, but getting back to the question of activism, we don't have the tradition in other countries where corporate Ghana takes a position. We've seen a little bit of it, thankfully, with Ken Ashigbe and his team pushing and speaking against Galamsey. But we need a lot more of that. Because we need to move from passive citizens to very active patriots who see that wrong is wrong and make the case and stand up and say, wrong is wrong, we are not being part of this. So to the extent that we start getting corporate Ghana taking stance on national issues objectively and not driven by partisan politics, there is a lot of hope for this country. I mentioned the integrity factor, the trust factor. The next one is championing integrity. It's been the bane of us. And you see, the cost of being disingenuous and compromising on integrity is very high. And I'll throw it. It's an area worthy of research. Because when we do the wrong things, invariably there is a huge hidden cost. When they cut corners with the road construction, or when they are, remember when they were selling the contracts, you get a contract and you sell and somebody does the road? It's huge cost to us. So the integrity factor. And the third one I need to mention here is how we feel as a collective, as a country. Our sense of pride. It seems as if the only time we really feel bullish about this country is when Blasters is winning. Otherwise, if you put a plane on the airport and it said free visa, USA, how many people will be left in this room? Including Canada. Yeah, Canada, even I may consider, but I've been there for a while. So. But you know, we need to bring back, because the truth of the matter is that when you go there, you start appreciating Ghana. I bet you. Dog Chair will tell you. When you are there out in the cold and you see a policeman, then you realize that, oh, the Ghanaian policemen were friendly. Indeed, a lot of the time when they come back, they give the policemen, they give the bigger tips. I had a friend who came back, he was giving 20 pounds before he realized that 20 pounds is not the same as 20 cedis. But we need to bring back the sense of pride in our country. And corporate Ghana has a role in that. We need to foster a sense of belief, a sense of hope, a sense of knowing that there are paths to social mobility. If you study hard, you work hard, you close your mind to soft life, you can make it. Now, the other point I want to make in terms of how corporate Ghana should deal with this matter is the issue of being a collective voice for a better future. How do we make this happen? If we get corporate Ghana becoming a united voice for progress, demanding predictability and fairness, and critically, establishing itself as a player not to be ignored, the faith estate. Because as a cohesive bloc, corporate Ghana can act as a powerful, pragmatic vertical or estate, holding governments accountable, not through opposition, but through constructive, solution-oriented dialogue. And this would then show to us, the ordinary citizens, that there is a competent, powerful force in society working to keep Ghana on track. And not just on track, but also on the right track. Now, if we are able to get this together, if we are able to ensure that corporate Ghana provides cohesive employment, there is courageous activism, there is constructive advocacy, the end result is a lot more hope and optimism. Believe, the knowledge that once you work hard, there is a Ghanaian dream that can be realized. The Ghanaian dream, in part, is in the hands of corporate Ghana. It's in the hands of our corporate patrons. And that is the solution to this crisis. That is what we need to be communicating extensively. So now, just hold these two images in mind. I'm going back to COVID. Remember, and I'm sure a lot of you saw it, the images of our rivers when COVID happened. The Pra River. Indeed, when I saw it, I said it wasn't true. So a friend was traveling and I took a drive and I saw it with my own eyes. Nature is amazing. Some way, somehow, within a very short period, the water appeared to have regenerated and aquatic life was coming back. You don't want to see those pictures today. You know, there is an Akam proverb that says that the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of his people. And if it's even worse when your water source starts dying. What will happen to you, we should not say. We've spoken about what corporate Ghana can do. Just as I thought, the screen went off. And that's why I need a hard copy. You see, crisis. We mentioned earlier that there are usually two types of crisis. We said there is one category of crisis that you don't quite see the signs. It just flashes on you. Indeed, when COVID started, I was traveling around that time. And that was in March in 2000. And in early March going, I saw a few people wearing masks at the airport in Heathrow. And I was thinking, why would people want to do this? This thing is so far away. The following week when I was returning, it had become mandatory for everybody to wear a mask. That was so sudden, nobody expected it. But usually the crisis that is more difficult to deal with are the ones that take so long to maturation. The slow burning one. The one that was there where it was an issue. In fact, first it wasn't even an issue. It was a soft matter. Then it became an issue. Then you allow the issue to, as it were, worsen to the extent that it becomes ossified, and now you have a hardened crisis. That's the challenge we have with an issue such as Galamsey. To the extent that Galamsey, from significant reports we are reading today, is actually on the verge of becoming a national security issue. And if you look at the sub-region, and the fact that we are an oasis of peace in the sub-region, you do not allow things like this to take seed, much more roots. That is what we could be dealing with. Now, what does corporate Ghana do about this? My response is again three things. Number one, as I mentioned, we need a bit more of courage. Because you get to a state where there is no middle ground. We mentioned the activism. It can't happen unless we are very clear, we are very conscientious, and we have a lot of courage. The easier path is not our business. We don't want to be seen as political. But very soon, whether you like it or not, the fire is going to get you. Silence, as they say, in the face of difficult challenges is not neutrality. It is endorsement. And we don't want to be endorsers, so we need to take a stand. And taking a stand doesn't mean you must be anti-establishment. No, but you must be clearly pro-Ghana. Because it's Ghana first. And without Ghana, there is no corporate space. There is no corporate enterprise. So our commitment, unalloyed, must always be to Ghana. Communication must be very clear and certain because people are going to go at you. But you see, as they say, for you to be able to take that stand of courage, you also have to come to equity with clean hearts. Because my elders say, and I translate, the one with cotton wool at your backside, don't go jumping over fire. So clear the cotton wools and gather courage and speak to the issues that are pro-Ghana so that we can deal with our crisis when they come. There are examples that we may want to cite, but for the lack of time, when you get time, read about Airtel in Nigeria and courageous stance they took. I don't want to give you examples from the Western world because it's become part of their irregular practice. But we have to get there. The nature of our challenges in Ghana demand that we get there. Demand that corporate Ghana shows up as corporate patrons. Now, finally, we also have to get a framework for patriotic communication so that you are not pushed into a silo. And we do that so well in Ghana to the extent that, you remember when Ghana say thing hit a crescendo, the timing was wrong because it was so close to elections? Some of the corporate institutions said we can't be part. And I can understand them because Ghana, we have an artificial Greenwich, political Greenwich meridian. You are either left or right in Ghana. Myself, my name is Mawuko Afadzinu. I attended Prempeh College. And our time was 7 years, remember? So I grew up there. Most of my network is from Prempeh College. And back in the day when I was younger, I was doing television. Student boy, Prempeh College trained, inclined to the right, had issues with Jerry Rawlings regime aspects of it. So I'll go on television and say it. The day it suits NDC, they remember that I am a Prempeh College boy. The day it suits MPP, they call my name Mawuko Afadzinu. It happened so many times that I had fun with it. But then it was fun. Now it no longer is fun. Because the divide is jarring and is counterproductive to our national development. And that's why you see corporate Ghana shying away because they don't want to be labeled and put into a silo. But the time is coming, and the time is now, that we need corporate Ghana up. We need corporate Ghana as corporate patrons, because that is the way we are going to get into the land in Nkrumah saw. When he spoke of a nation, that was the beacon of Africa's pride. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, our guest speaker. You can see the aura of the conference room was different when he started. Yes, this is who we are. It's a clear indication that he is really cut up for the lecture, and we enjoyed the session. It's time for questions, and we'll be entertaining 5 questions. Just 5 of them. And we will take the first 3 and then take the last 2. So we will take 3 questions first, and then when that is addressed, we will come for the final 2. So question time. So we will use this modality for the questioning. You introduce yourself before the question.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Kofi Mawedem Noel. So my question says, if with his experience, if he's given the opportunity, what is the strategies he would put in place to minimize galamsey in this country?
Okay, so there is another question here. We will take that one.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Rashidi Ogumola. I'm with the Communication Studies Department. I have a simple question. Mr. Mawuko Afadzinu, does Stanbic, as an organization, I actually bank with your bank. Do you have any set of proposals on Galamsey? Have you taken any steps so far as an organization to go close to the government to present it as far as fighting this existential crisis is concerned? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Aram Albert. So Mr. Speaker actually made mention of Ken Ashigbe and his team making profound voices about this Galamsey issue. I think it's kind of directing to the first two speakers, but then I would want to get more into it. We are hearing that this Galamsey is actually causing a lot of devastations in this country that we live in. And as a young communicator who wants to delve more into this communication course, I would want to know the reason behind this particular statement that we go about hearing, that the world around us has actually changed, but then the advice hasn't. Mr. Speaker also made us know that Ken Ashigbe made some statements and that we need more of Ken Ashigbe. If there is an advice like this, like the world around us has changed, but then the advice hasn't, as an educative or an avid reader who is more into this communication course, is there a particular way we must follow? Since what Ken Ashigbe is doing is not really helping, but then we need more of him. Is there any other way that would help, ameliorate this Galamsey issue? Thank you very much.
After he answers, say, Galamsey issue. Since they've all asked Galamsey issue, my question was about since we've agreed 3, so after the 3, then okay. I also want to add the mic.
The recency effect is at work here, so let me start from the bottom. Have you ever been by the fireside before? Hey, you people, you should be born again. You should live again. You are missing, this generation. Oh man, with where you do the pot and you put the wood in there. Oh, you call it bonfire. Oh, okay, so it's me. So bonfire. Have you been by a bonfire before? Yes. Good. Now when you are by the bonfire, sometimes you have a big plank that you put in the fire. And it generates the fire and the heat and what have you, right? When you want more heat, what do you do? Thank you. That is it. See Ken Ashigbe as a plank of wood, or what he represents as a plank of wood. Now, if we had a lot more, we had you, we had me, we had him, we had all of us in there as wood, the heat from the fire would drive away the night flies. And so we need more rather than less. We need more of the right type of wood. And then we generate the right heat. So that's for the first question. Now the second one about Stanbic. Very difficult question. I'll give you some of the food some. So we have what we call ESG, which is an important guiding convention that governs everything we do. To that extent, we would look at the nature of your operations before we deal with you. And we are obligated by our commitment to those conventions not to do any business that will harm the environment. If we know it's harming the environment and we've done all our due diligence, we'll walk away. We'd rather save the country than make money. And again, remember that what I said is not also enlightened self-interest. Because there is peer review, and where you get it wrong, the negativity, the cause of the negativity that is generated is not worth it. And we need a lot more of that to serve as fences and checks for corporate Ghana. Now, there was a third question, primacy effect. What was the third question, the first question again? What I would do, oh, people. That question, if I answer, I may be arrested before I get home. Guys, you know, the truth of the matter is that, as we said, Galamsey has now ossified. I am told, I haven't seen verifiable evidence, but I am told that it's become a significant part of our political party funding, which is trouble. It's massive trouble. Because what it means is that the people with means are able to get positions and buy positions of influence. And once they buy positions of influence, it doesn't matter who is there. They will still be there. That is worrying. Now, if it's funding, if it is true, and as I said, I haven't seen the data, but I've heard it repeatedly. Now, if that is the case, then you can be sure that it will be funding other things. I have read pieces. I believe there was one in a reputable paper, was it a Telegraph, that suggests that there are criminal groups outside Ghana who, because of the fluidity of our Galamsey, are using that for money laundering. You know what it means for our country. And so the gravity of the situation we are dealing with is such that, with my limited knowledge, I would have taken very extreme, drastic measures. But the measures are only part of it. I have been to Galamsey areas on Sundays and see literally tens of thousands of very young people coming into the city center. You stop that, you need to create alternative employments for them. And so we should be looking at job creation. You want to create employments that gives them a sense of dignity and not just any ordinary work. So we should be looking at that. So if we are creating the alternatives, and if it is the case that I am able to generate tens and hundreds of thousands of jobs, and good jobs for that matter, then I can go very hard on them. Then I can decide that Galamsey is actually treason against the country. Because what you are doing is not just compromising your life, and typically, because of the exposure to the mercury and all that, it comes with huge medical costs that we'll have to bear. Not to mention the deformities and other things. So the quantum of the cost is so high, the consequences must be equally dire. And they would be dire if I had the means. Thank you.
So, unfortunately, I have to take you back to the Galamsey issue. I'm an adjunct lecturer. My students are doing a documentary on Galamsey. It's a 1-hour documentary. So we went to Osino, and what we saw was an eyesore. In fact, the hotel we lodged in is actually owned by a Galamsey operator. And we interviewed journalists. We interviewed the PRO for Ghana Armed Forces, and he said some of the Galamsey operators, the weapons they have, Ghana Armed Forces don't even have. They said it. Records also show that $8 billion is generated out of Galamsey. So looking at the economic aspect of it and the security aspect of it, do you think corporate Ghana can do something? Is there something corporate Ghana can do to actually eradicate or add their voices to Galamsey fight? Do you think it's possible? Looking at the economic aspect of it and the security aspect of it, is there something corporate Ghana can do about it?
So let's take the second one.
Okay, thank you. My name is Justice Issa Abdullahi. I teach crisis communication at the undergrads and the graduate school. In fact, these are MBA and MA students. These are students who will finish the school and will head the communication wing of their organizations. So I'm always asked this question. If my organization is experiencing a crisis situation. And as head of corporate communication, I provide some guidance to management. And unfortunately, management doesn't seem to, agree with the guidance that I have provided. Especially when you are dealing with very difficult bosses. What should be my approach as the head of communication? Thank you.
Third one. Again, starting from the back. That is always a difficult one. And speaking from, I don't know why crisis like me, but I've dealt with crisis upon crisis upon crisis from Ghana Airways, Coca-Cola, Stanbic. Stanbic one was classic. I'll give you two of the favorite Stanbic ones. Christmas time, it's a very quiet time. And newspapers typically go to sleep after Christmas. And that's when we all take our leave and you are getting some chicken and, life is easy. Then, on the 2nd of January, a few years back, graphic comes out, which is rare, and there is a headline banner. Stanbic staff runs away with the money of thousands of customers. And the first day after Christmas, there is a whole crowd and there is a near run on the Tema Community 1 branch because of a poor, misguided colleague of mine who is now in prison or she's out. And that was there. That was my Christmas, New Year gone. Huge matter I have to deal. And then back in the day, Agoy, around the same time, there is a fuel station explosion, gas explosion. You remember the Goy fire at Circle? I wasn't working at Goy. I was working at Stanbic, but I went to carry that one too as part of my cross. Because a lot of the people in management then were the people I started work with. And so once they had trouble, the trouble man, I was actually in South Africa. I came back to come and deal with that. So consistently deal with crisis all my life. And the first thing, as was said earlier, is that you need to have an idea, you need to have a plan. But Mike Tyson, you all know Mike Tyson, the younger ones. You know Iron Mike? Yes. Iron Mike said, he's a deep thinker. He said, everyone has a plan until they are punched on their jaw. Crisis gives you a very heavy punch on your jaws. But it's good at least you have a plan. And typically, when there are crisis situations, unless they are pre-agreed protocols, the big people are jumpy. Because their neck and their stomachs are on the line. So they tend to be very, very nervy. And that's the reason why the pre-agreed protocols are so very important. What they say, how they say, and if you've run simulations, it also helps. Otherwise, the nervousness, it will come. Big matter, big people, they are like small boys. Almost all the time. So if they agreed and you know that this is what they should do, then you are able to draw them in line and refer to the protocols. Even that one sometimes will override you. But remember that in our culture, the big man is never wrong. So even when they disregard it and it goes pear-shaped, they'll find a reason to blame you. So again, for our own professional integrity, we try to make sure they don't get into that zone. But when they get into that zone, we are always following behind them to pick up the droppings for it not to become a more grievous one. So our bosses who were just media agnostic, they didn't understand the media. And they came with a lot of prejudices. So seriously, I have bosses I respect with my life. Respect, respect, respect. Tell me at an executive meeting that, why don't we just give the journalist something for him to keep quiet? I'm thinking, hell no. And then I said to them, we can do that. But the next time he says something about you, you remember when you were doing that lady, anytime your girlfriend goes out, you also think she's doing the same thing. It's the same principle. If it is that you believe you will buy the media, then anything that goes against you, you also think somebody's bought them. So as a principle, I would never countenance that where I am. You get what I'm saying? So it's a very difficult thing. And the other thing, and honestly, if I come to this life again, I'll never do communication. I'll get something more esoteric. Something that when you say they don't understand. You see that one? Go and do some geometric something, aeronautical something a lot of people don't understand. Because you see, the challenge we have is that anybody who ever went to school and did my first day in school see themselves as communication experts. And especially when they are clever in their bosses, even more difficult. But there are a clear set of principles that have been studied over time, codified knowledge that determine how we act based on data. They don't have the data. What they have is my first day in school. Thank you. There is no. No, that was a contribution, or? So you know what corporate Ghana can do is what we haven't done in a concerted fashion. Because going back to the firewood analogy, what the guys were doing, election time is difficult. So I can understand. But imagine that we got that aggregated action in a period which wasn't close to an election. Government will act. Government will be forced to act. People into Galamsey would have to hide. And if they start hiding, then we can smoke them out. But now there is no reason to hide. They fund the most important things. They build churches. And sometimes they dig beneath the churches. They fund the political parties. Listen. You see, the place my father is from, Ewe, Kita, Angloga, there were things that were not done. There were grievous taboos. When you do it, you don't die alone. You, your family, everybody connected with you will die or is supposed to die. The one thing they didn't like at all was shame and disgrace. When you go and bring shame, they'll clear, or the gods will clear all of you. I don't know what they did to the gods. The boys doing Sakawa go to it's the most egregious of taboos. They go to the graveyard in the day and dig there. Open the graves, dig up the graves, get bones they want for their rituals. The elders of those days, when you are passing and you see them and you look at their face, you have to hide. The elders are there. The boys do it and get money and go and give it to the elders, and the elders can talk in today's Ghana. And that is more the reason why we need a solid vertical out of corporate Ghana. Because our traditional institutions are crumbling at the feet. And our values are gone. If corporate Ghana doesn't stand up, the space for them to make money is going to be very challenged, and it will shrink. The cost of doing business will go higher. It will be much more difficult for corporate Ghana. Thank you.
Plus, we can do the club better. Let's give her some number. So, before we take our chairman's closing remark, we have two presentations to make coming from the Department of Communication under the auspices of our indefatigable Dean. So, the first presentation is to our guest speaker, Mr. Mawuko Afadzinu, for honoring this invitation to be our guest speaker. And this will be done by the Dean of the Faculty of IT and Communication.
So this is a nice plaque that we are giving to our guest speaker for honoring this invitation.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you so much. Yes. And the second presentation, recently we had some number of first-class students, and these students were sponsored by Stanbic Bank. And so we want to honor Stanbic Bank for standing in to sponsor our first-class students. And so the next presentation will be done by the patron of COMSA, Dr. Justice Abdullahi, to Stanbic Bank for sponsoring our first-class students.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mawuko. Your bank actually sponsored our first-class students this immediate graduation that we held. And I had already sent a very powerful message to Stanbic Bank. And Stanbic Bank is actually my bank, and I've enjoyed doing business with you. So on behalf of our faculty, and of course, the Department of Communication Studies, we present this to you on behalf of Stanbic Bank Ghana. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you, Stanbic Bank, and thank you, Mr. Mawuko. And so we now invite our chairperson to give his closing remark.
Oh, I think we can do better for our guest speaker. You will agree with me that he's the right person for the job this afternoon. And he's done justice to the topic. Dear guest speaker, the vote of thanks will come, but we are so grateful for the insights and the knowledge that you have shared with us. I was particularly impressed with the way you were able to weave theory with practice, with experience, your knowledge, your observations, and your passion to see that Ghana really becomes the Ghana that we all want. That was very, very impressive. You were able to draw our attention to the fact that whenever there is a challenge or a crisis, we shouldn't allow it to just go waste. We need to take a lesson out of that. And I think that is important for all of us in our various lives to make sure that we keep learning and get better. You challenged us that corporate Ghana has a role to play in promoting national development. And this corporate Ghana must do without disappointing this country. Businesses today, their expectations must go beyond just making profit and remind themselves that there's a social contract that exists between businesses and society. Corporate Ghana has the responsibility of becoming the economic engines to drive socio-economic development. And I think that is very important so that the idea that government should always be the only partner to create jobs will be corrected. I think that it is a collective responsibility. You challenged us about the issues of environment. You linked it to the illegal mining menace, and we all know how it is challenging this country and destroying our economy and our social fabric and everything. And I'm sure that the message has gone down very well to corporate Ghana. I believe that corporate Ghana will take it up seriously. You challenged us that we don't need to be passive. We need to be active and then be able to push forward the issues of illegal mining. Have a position on it, not assuming political positions, but be firm on the right things that have to be done to be able to correct this menace. So in summary, I'll say that you have challenged us that corporate Ghana must rise up with values, integrity, patriotism, walk the talk, and actively and timely communicate to drive socio-economic development so that together we can all realize the Ghana that we dream for. Once again, our distinguished guest speaker, we are grateful. Audience, thank you so much for cooperating with me to chair this important lecture to a successful end. Thank you so much.